Sixth Aliyah is chapter 25, 11 verses. By the way, the next place that occurs according to the Masorah is in 2 Samuel 13:1. That's the second place of Vayeheveha. Okay, chapter 25, that's where there's a big kaf hey here. Vayosef Avraham vayikach isha ushema keturah. So then Avraham continued, and he took a wife, a woman, and her name was Keturah. Verse 2. Vateled lo et Zimran ve'et Yokshan ve'et Medan ve'et Midian. These are the names of who she gave birth to. Ve'et Yishbak ve'et Shuach. And as I showed you the other slide, these guys are mentioned in extra biblical literature as well. Verse 3. Vayokshan yalad et Sheva ve'et Dadan. And Yokshan sired Sheva and Dedan. Uvnei Dedan, and the sons of Dedan, Hayu, they were Ashurim, and Letushim, and Leumim. Verse Dalet. By the way, regarding Zimran, Sforno in Mekot Gedolot, he mentions that it says she bore these children for him, i.e. to let her raise them in his household, that he did not beget him. So there's some disagreement among the sages that these were really Abraham's children, or were they children who she had already? Maybe she's a widow or something like that, and he decided to take them on as stepchildren and raise them as his own. 1 Chronicles 1 verse 28 makes clear that he did not beget sons, except for Yitzchak and Ishmael. So it's interesting. This is Sforno's opinion, right? So Sforno is making this claim. I think Avraham actually begetted them, but it's open to interpretation. Esau writes, Janine says Sarah had a different tent from Avraham. Yes. According to the sages, it was normal in those days for a wife to have her own tent, right? Makes sense. Maybe she wants to get away from the guy for a while or whatever, so she'd go to her tent. Especially in polygamous cultures, the different wives would have different tents. Okay, Esau says, I think that Haveha has a shared root with the word. Golly, the Hebrew is so small here. What is that? Hav? To grant or to give, like Havo l'Adonai, like ascribe to Adonai, Bnei Eliam, sons of the mighty, right? Interesting. It could. Yeah, there are a handful of triliteral roots that linguists think first started in ancient Hebrew as biliteral. So it certainly could be that you're giving something when you love. Maybe. And he says the Aramaic transliterations of verse 3. Okay, go ahead. Again, it's so small to read. Vayokshan olid yat Shav'a v'yat Dadan uvnei Dadan hayo lemishiryan v'leshichunin v'nigvayan. It's so small, the font is hard. So the names are different, Esau's saying, in the Aramaic, in the Onkelos. Oh, wow. Very interesting. Well, there is some difference even in the Assyrian, in the Akkadian, I mean. And if you saw before, there's a slide in the Josh I kind of flew through quickly about the sons. So I said take a screenshot if you're interested. And some of the names were also mutated a bit in Akkadian. So maybe as they passed through to the different language, maybe they were more common in that language, and so that's why we get that. The Syriac is the same, which is late Aramaic, guys, is the same as the Hebrew. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be nice to investigate. Nice things you're noticing. You're on your game today. On the ball. Okay, verse 4. Uvnei Midian Ephah va'Ether v'Chanoch va'Avida v'Elda'ah. It just says, and those are the names of the sons of Midian. Kol Eli, all these were Bnei Keturah, the sons of Keturah. Okay, and then verse 5. Vayiten Avraham et kol asher lo l'Yitzchak. But, and this is Natan, it's a pei nun verb, so the nun will disappear. See it there in the Tav? It's there in the Tav. It went into the Tav. But Avraham gave everything which was his, which lo was to him. Don't confuse this with lo with an aleph, right? That means not, for those audio listeners out there who aren't reading along, this is lo with a vav, meaning to him, le Yitzchak, to Yitzchak. He gave it all to Yitzchak. According to Gersonides, he did this ... once he saw that none of the other lads was approaching even to be Shalem, perfect. Verse Vav, verse 6. We continue on. V'livnei hapilagshim asher le'Avraham natan Avraham matanot. And to the sons of the concubines who were belonging to Avraham, Avraham gave to them matanot, gifts. And Ibn Ezra claims that this pilagashim, it's just another word for female slaves. He gave them money, and they go on eastward. So we know that he actually had wives and concubines, right? So the concubine it's still a wife, so she can't be with another man, but there's just kind of a different level in the agreement. So a pilagesh is basically a wife who has the right to divorce. She can leave if she wants to, right? Because she hasn't been given as much as a full-fledged woman with a ketubah, right? With a document of marriage. But the children, they still inherit, and all these sorts of things. They have the right to inheritance. Tet says, I read too that Rivka had a separate tent from Avraham. You mean from Yitzchak, yeah? Yeah. Janine says, needed a break from the hubby from time to time. Yeah, I mean, look, it makes sense, right? People need breaks sometimes. So maybe there's some wisdom in the lady having her own tent, right? Or even in the Victorian England, like the woman would have, if she had money, she'd have a hobby room, right? Or like a sewing room or something like that, a place to have some space, right? Or guys today will have a man cave, we call it, right? They've got a place they like to go. Okay, verse 5. 6, okay? He gave to his concubines, okay, gifts. Vaishalachem, but then he sent them away, is what this means. See the dagesh? Shalach is to send out, but this is to send away. He sent who away? Aim. The aim means them. Me'al, from with Yitzchak. All doesn't just mean on top, it can mean with, right? So context is king here. From being with Yitzchak. He wants to make sure that there's no challenges to the will, so to speak, later on. Beno, his son. Be'odenu chai kedema el eretz kedem. As they were still alive, towards the east, to the land of the east, of the land of Kedem. Kimchi comments regarding the concubines. He says, Abraham's sons by the concubines. More precisely, the sons of the concubines that Avraham had in his household, right? So, Kimchi has a different opinion. He says that these were not Avraham's concubines, but they were his servants' concubines. That's a bit of a stretch. So you have kind of medieval rabbis trying to make sense out of this, right? Which had developed into kind of the morality of the day. They're trying to make sense, but it's worth mentioning that there is some disagreement about this. That nonetheless, they'd grown up in his household, they were circumcised, they followed the way, so they were like his sons, is what Kimchi's saying. And he gave them gifts as was appropriate. Excuse me. Okay. Verse Zion, Ve'ele yemei shenei chayei Avraham. And these are the days of the years of the life of Avraham. Look at that big construct chain there. Yemei shenei chayei Avraham. For any of you Hebrew students, this is a perfect example of how, remember, only one word can be definite. Only the last word can be something very specific, definite. In this case, Avraham. That's not any person, it's Avraham. And when the last word, the word in the absolute, is definite, the whole chain is definite. So we have to say the. So the days of the years of the life of Avraham. Asher Chai, in which he was alive. Me'at shana, v'shivi'im shana, v'chamesh shanim. They were, we have to say were in English to make it make sense. They were how long? They were 100 year, and 70 year, and 5 years. Verse 8, Vayigva vayamat Avraham. Then this word gava, it's to expire. It's like he gave up the breath, and Avraham died. Beseva tova zaken v'salveya. As a gray head, this is a good word for old age, right? You're a gray head. You've achieved gray-headedness. It's a good thing to be gray-headed. It's like being ripe, like a ripe person. Tova, good, with a good gray head. Zaken, old age. V'saveya, and satisfied. V'ye'asef el amav. This is maybe hard for you to recognize. This is noon nifal. This nifal, there's a noon that's in here. That's why instead of chirik, we have compensatory lengthening to tzere. So passive. And he was gathered el amav unto his people. Okay. Verse tet. Vayikbelu oto Yitzchak v'Yishmael banav el me'arat hamachpelah. Then Yitzchak and Yishmael, they buried him, or his sons, they buried him, towards the cave of Machpelah, that region, right? The folding, the place where the earth is folded. El Sedeh Ephron, towards the field of Ephron. Ben Sohar Hachiti, son of Tzohar, the Hittite. Asher al Panei Mamre, which is near Mamre. Verse 10. Hasadeh Asher Kana Avraham Me'et Bani Chet, the field which Avraham bought from the sons of Chet. Shama Kuba Avraham, there, this is Pu'al, so passive, there Avraham was buried, V'Sara Ishto, and Sarah his wife. Verse 11, Vayhi acharei mot Avraham, Vayvarech Elohim et Yitzchak beno. And it was after the death of Avraham that God blessed Yitzchak, his son. Vayeshev Yitzchak im be'er lachai roi. Then Yitzchak lived literally with the well that was at Lachai Roi, or the one called Lachai Roi. So it's interesting. So after his father dies, he moves to a holier place. He actually moves to that location. Remember, we read in the text before that Bamevo, that he came back from going to this place, right? Presumably to pray. But now he moves there. He lives there. Very interesting. So when the parents aren't there, there's no more obligation. His true heart was to actually live in the holy place. Let's see. Okay. Just making sure nobody was commenting anything that I missed there.